The Deep Space Monitoring Station Helios hung silently against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars, its sensor arrays continuously scanning the forbidden sectors of space. For 3 centuries, these automated watchers had maintained their vigil, searching for any sign that humanity's ancient enemy had discovered their exodus route. Instead, they found something impossible. Captain Sarah Chin stood at the Helios Command Center's main viewport, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic representation of the signal that had dragged her across 50 light-years at maximum burn. Behind her, the station's AI projected the waveform analysis that had already been transmitted to every surviving human colony. "Play it again," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The AI complied, and once more the message filled the chamber. "To any surviving human vessels. Earth endures. We endure. The Nexary occupation continues, but their grip weakens. The seeds we planted grow. If you receive this, know that Operation Phoenix was successful. We await your return." The timestamp marked it as 3 months old, but the signal itself had been traveling for decades. More importantly, it used encryption protocols that hadn't been compromised during the fall of Earth, protocols that only a handful of military installations would have known. "Analysis confirms it originated from Earth's solar system," reported Commander Marcus Walsh, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays. "Specifically, from what used to be the Lunar Defense Complex. The facility that was supposedly destroyed in the final days of the war." Sarah nodded, remembering the historical footage every human child had grown up watching. The Nexary bombardment of Earth's last strongholds, the desperate evacuation of as many survivors as possible, and the final, devastating strike that was meant to render Earth uninhabitable. Yet here was proof that something had survived. "What do the colony councils say?" she asked, though she already suspected the answer. Humanity's surviving populations, spread across dozens of carefully hidden systems, had grown cautious over the centuries. They had built new homes, new civilizations, all while carrying the burning memory of Earth's loss. "They're deadlocked," Marcus replied. "Half want to send an immediate response force. The others." He trailed off, but Sarah could fill in the rest. "The others feared it was a trap, that the Nexary had somehow discovered their survival and were trying to lure them back." Sarah turned to the third person in the room, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, whose expertise in xenobiology had made her the foremost authority on their ancient enemy. The scientist had been studying the signal's accompanying data packet with an intensity that suggested she'd found something significant. "The atmospheric readings," Yuki said without looking up. "They don't match any of our projections. The Nexary bombardment should have left Earth a toxic wasteland, but these numbers. They suggest an active biosphere. Different from what we remember, but very much alive." Sarah moved to examine the data herself. The numbers told a story that defied their understanding of what had happened 3 centuries ago. Earth's atmosphere showed signs of organic activity, complex chemical processes that shouldn't have been possible in a dead world. "There's more," Yuki continued, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "The signal contains encrypted genetic data. Fragments of DNA sequences that show signs of directed evolution. Someone, or something, has been actively modifying Earth's remaining ecosystem. Adapting it." The implications were staggering. The Nexary were masters of crystalline technology, their entire civilization built on the manipulation of mineral structures. They had no interest in organic life except as a resource to be harvested or an obstacle to be removed. Yet here was evidence of sophisticated bioengineering, carried out over centuries. Sarah's wrist computer chimed, indicating a priority transmission from the Phoenix, her warship station just outside the Helios's defense perimeter. "Captain, we're detecting additional signals," her XO reported. "Same encryption, different frequencies. They're coming online across the entire Earth sector." The holographic display shifted, showing a cascade of new transmission sources. Each one represented a hidden facility, a secret installation, or a buried bunker that had somehow survived the Nexary conquest. Each one carrying its own message of defiance against an enemy that thought they had achieved total victory. Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. 3 centuries ago, humanity had been forced to flee its cradle, leaving behind a supposedly dead world. They had survived, adapted, and grown stronger, all while carrying the dream of eventual return. Now that dream had suddenly become possible, but the decision she faced could determine the fate of both their lost homeworld and their hard-won colonies. Send word to the councils, she finally ordered. The Phoenix will investigate. Minimal crew, maximum stealth capacity. If there are survivors on Earth, if there's even a chance of reclaiming our homeworld, we owe them this much. The councils won't approve, Marcus warned. Not officially. Then we don't ask for official approval, Sarah replied, her decision made. We ask for volunteers. And I suspect we'll find more than enough among those who still remember the promise we made when we left Earth, that someday, no matter how long it took, humanity would return. As if in response to her words, another signal joined the chorus, this one carrying something different, detailed scans of Nexary installations on Earth's surface. The images showed signs of decay, of structural weaknesses in their crystalline architecture. The supposedly invincible conquerors had grown complacent in their victory, never imagining that the planet they had claimed might itself become their enemy. Prepare the Phoenix for long-range deployment, Sarah ordered. And send a message to our hidden shipyards. Tell them to begin activating the sealed facilities. If we're going home, we're going to need every advantage we can get. The next few hours passed in a blur of preparation and planning. As Sarah had predicted, volunteers flooded in from across the colonies, each bearing the same fire in their eyes. They were the children of Exodus, raised on stories of a lost homeworld and the promise of return. Now that promise was calling them home. Standing on the Phoenix's bridge as the final preparations were made, Sarah watched the holographic representation of Earth's solar system. Somewhere in that distant sphere of space, impossible survivors were waiting for their return. And perhaps, just perhaps, they had spent the last 3 centuries preparing a welcome for humanity's ancient enemy. All systems ready, Marcus reported from his station. Course plotted through the quiet zones. We can be at Earth's heliopause in 6 weeks. Sarah nodded, her decision already made. Take us out, Commander. It's time to wake the sleeping giant. The Phoenix emerged from its final quantum jump at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, its advanced stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. Even after 6 weeks of travel, Captain Sarah Chen could hardly believe the sensor readings before her. Earth's solar system was alive with activity, but not in the way anyone had expected. Multiple Nexary installations detected throughout the system, reported Lieutenant Kai Rodriguez from his sensor station. But their patrol patterns are irregular. Almost lazy. And their crystalline structures show signs of degradation far beyond normal entropy. The main viewscreen displayed a Nexary monitoring station near Jupiter, its once pristine geometric surfaces now pitted and dulled. Thin fracture lines spiderwebbed across its surface, as if something had been slowly eating away at its structure for centuries. Dr. Tanaka, Sarah called to their xenobiologist. Your analysis. Yuki studied the readings with intense concentration. The deterioration isn't random. These patterns, they're similar to how certain Earth bacteria break down mineral deposits. But that's impossible. No Earth-based life form could survive in space, let alone affect Nexary crystal tech. The Phoenix continued its careful approach, staying within the shadow of various celestial bodies to avoid detection. As they passed Mars, they received their first clear view of Earth. The sight made everyone on the bridge fall silent. The planet was transformed. The familiar blue marble of historical records was now threaded with luminescent patterns, like rivers of light flowing across its surface. Massive crystalline structures, Nexary architecture, rose from every continent, but they too showed signs of change. The geometric precision of alien design had been softened, altered, as if the planet itself was slowly digesting the invaders' constructions. New signal detected, Kai announced suddenly. Same encryption as before, but this one's fresh. Origin point. Antarctica. The message was brief but clear, Phoenix acknowledged. Proceed to coordinates attached. Bring your sleepers. It's time they met ours. Sarah exchanged glances with Marcus. The Phoenix carried 300 colonists in biological stasis, volunteers who had insisted on joining the mission despite the risks. They were supposed to be backup, insurance in case Earth needed to be repopulated. Now it seemed their sleeping passengers might serve another purpose. Following the provided coordinates, the Phoenix descended through Earth's atmosphere under cover of darkness. Their destination was a massive glacier, or what appeared to be a glacier at first glance. As they got closer, they realized the ice was merely camouflage for something far more interesting. Structure detected beneath the ice, Kai reported. It's Ross Station. But that's impossible. Ross Station was destroyed in the first wave of the invasion. Yet there it was. The entrance to one of Earth's most advanced research facilities, hidden beneath centuries of ice but very much intact. As the Phoenix settled into a concealed landing zone, they received another transmission, this one accompanied by a visual feed. The face that appeared on their screen was human, but somehow not quite right. The woman's skin had a faint crystalline quality to it, and her eyes seemed to shift color as she spoke. Captain Chen, I'm Dr. Elena Martinez, or rather, I'm her descendant. Welcome back to Earth. We have much to show you, but first, you should know what we've become. The next few hours were a crash course in 3 centuries of human adaptation and evolution. As Sarah led a small team into Ross Station, they discovered that humanity hadn't just survived on Earth, it had transformed itself. The facility housed thousands of stasis pods, but unlike the conventional units on the Phoenix, these had been modified with Nexary crystal technology. Inside each pod was a human being, but one altered by centuries of controlled evolution and crystal integration. The original survivors had a choice, Elena explained as they toured the facility. Fight the Nexary with conventional weapons and lose, or adapt their own technology to fight them on a cellular level. They chose adaptation. The pods contained people from all walks of life, soldiers, scientists, civilians, each preserved at different stages of the transformation process. Some looked almost normal, while others had crystalline growths that seemed to enhance rather than harm them. We call ourselves the synthesis, Elena continued. Each generation, we wake a few more, allowing them to complete their transformation under controlled conditions. We're still human, but we've gained the ability to interface with and manipulate Nexary technology. More importantly, we can corrupt it. Sarah watched as Elena placed her hand on a nearby crystal formation. The structure responded to her touch, changing color and shape as if it were alive. The Nexary never imagined their technology could be turned against them like this. They saw organic life as inferior, something to be swept aside. They didn't consider that we might learn to speak their language at a molecular level. The implications were staggering. These altered humans weren't just survivors, they were a new branch of humanity that had evolved specifically to fight their conquerors. And now they wanted to wake the Phoenix's sleeping passengers, to offer them the same transformation. Your colonists, Elena said, reading the concern on Sarah's face. They won't be forced to change. But we need their genetic diversity, their unaltered human DNA. It will help stabilize the transformation process for future generations. In return, we can offer them something extraordinary, the ability to reclaim Earth not just with weapons, but with the very essence of what the Nexary thought made them invincible. A distant alarm sounded, and Elena's expression turned urgent. We've detected movement in the Nexary patrol patterns. They're not as dormant as they seem, something has stirred them up. Your arrival, perhaps, or maybe they've finally realized what we've been doing to their precious crystals. Either way, we need to make a decision. Sarah looked at her team, then back at the rows of sleeping humans in their crystal-enhanced pods. The mission had just become far more complicated than a simple reconnaissance. They weren't just facing a choice about reclaiming Earth, they were facing a choice about the future of human evolution itself. "Show me everything," she finally said. "If we're going to wake our sleepers, they deserve to know exactly what they're waking up to." Elena smiled, her crystalline eyes catching the light. "Then let me show you what humanity has become while you were gone. And what we can all become together." The underground tunnels beneath what had once been Beijing stretched for kilometers, their walls lined with a hybrid of human and Nexary technology. Sarah Chen walked beside Elena, watching in fascination as bioluminescent organisms pulsed with soft light, providing both illumination and a sophisticated early warning system. "The traditional resistance started here," Elena explained, gesturing to ancient battle marks still visible on the tunnel walls. While the synthesis program was developing in Antarctica, ordinary humans were learning to fight back in their own way. They emerged into a vast cavern that took Sarah's breath away. Hundreds of people moved purposefully through what appeared to be an underground city, but it was unlike anything in the colony archives. Living structures merged seamlessly with crystalline technology, creating spaces that were both organic and geometric. The inhabitants themselves showed varying degrees of crystal integration, from purely human to the more evolved synthesis like Elena. "Commander Walsh, you're going to want to see this," Sarah called into her comm as a group of children ran past, their laughter echoing off the cavern walls. Some had the crystalline eyes of the synthesis, while others were completely human. "They're not just surviving down here. They're thriving." A tall man with tribal markings etched in luminescent crystal approached them. "Welcome to Haven Prime," he said, introducing himself as Marcus Red Cloud, leader of the Earth Resistance. "We've been waiting 3 centuries for this reunion." In a nearby command center, Red Cloud and Elena laid out the full situation. Holographic displays showed the global network of resistance bases, each one harboring a unique blend of traditional humans and synthesis. But more importantly, they showed what the Nexary had been doing all these years. "They're not just occupiers," Red Cloud explained, manipulating the hologram to show deeper scans of Earth's crust. "They're miners. Earth has something they desperately need, something that exists nowhere else they've found." The display zoomed in on the planet's core, revealing unusual energy patterns. "Earth's magnetic field isn't just a natural phenomenon," Elena continued. "It's powered by a form of energy the Nexary call vital resonance. It's what allows life to evolve here so readily, what made their crystal technology work better than anywhere else they've conquered. And now they're running out of it," Red Cloud added grimly. "Their mining operations have nearly reached the critical point. If they continue, they'll destabilize the planet's core. That's why we had to call you back now. We're out of time." Sarah studied the data, her military training kicking in. "Your message mentioned the seeds you planted. I'm assuming you didn't mean actual plants." Elena smiled, leading them to another section of the command center. Here, displays showed the deterioration of Nexary structures worldwide. "We've been seeding the planet with engineered organisms, bacteria, fungi, even specialized crystal-eating insects. Each generation breaks down more of their technology, forcing them to expend resources on repairs rather than deeper mining. But that's not all," Red Cloud continued. "Show them the grid." The holographic display shifted again, revealing a vast network of energy lines crisscrossing the planet. At first, Sarah thought they were looking at Nexary power distribution systems, but then she realized the truth. These are Earth's ley lines, the natural energy flows of the planet itself. The Nexary built their bases on these points to tap their power, Elena explained. But in doing so, they gave us access to their entire network. The synthesis can interface with it, redirect it. We've spent centuries learning their systems from the inside out. Which brings us to why we need your help, Red Cloud said. We've developed a way to use the ley line network against them, to essentially turn Earth itself into a weapon. But we need your ship, your technology, and most importantly, your unaltered humans. Dr. Tanaka, who had been quietly analyzing the data, spoke up. The synthesis adaptation process, it's not perfect, is it? You're reaching a genetic bottleneck. Elena nodded soberly. Each generation, fewer of us can successfully integrate with the crystal technology. We need fresh genetic material, pure human DNA, to stabilize the process. Without it, we'll lose our ability to interface with the network just when we need it most. And the Nexari? Sarah asked. They haven't noticed any of this. They don't see us as a threat, Red Cloud said with a grim smile. To them, we're just vermin infesting their mining operation. They've grown arrogant in their centuries here, convinced of their superiority. But they've never understood what Earth really is. A rumble shook the cavern, sending loose crystals tinkling to the ground. They're starting another deep bore, Elena explained. Each one brings them closer to critical damage of the core. We estimate we have less than a month before they reach the point of no return. Sarah absorbed the information, her mind already formulating strategies. The Phoenix carried advanced weaponry, but more importantly, it carried 300 colonists whose untainted DNA might be the key to saving not just Earth, but humanity's evolved children as well. If we help you, she said carefully, if we wake our sleepers and offer them the choice to join the synthesis program, what exactly is your plan? Red Cloud and Elena exchanged looks before Elena spoke. We're going to wake up Earth itself. The Nexari think they're mining an energy source, but they're really tapping into something they don't understand. Something that's been sleeping since before humans walked the planet. And when it wakes up. She smiled, her crystalline eyes glowing. Let's just say the Nexari are about to learn why you don't attack a living planet. Sarah looked at her team, seeing the same mix of awe and determination on their faces that she felt. They had come to Earth expecting to find survivors in need of rescue. Instead, they found something far more extraordinary, a new form of humanity that had not just endured but evolved, ready to take back their world with a power the Nexari never saw coming. Show us what you need, Sarah said. It's time to wake the sleeping giant. The resistance leaders smiled, and around them, the living crystals of Haven Prime pulsed with anticipation. The final battle for Earth was about to begin, and this time, humanity had the home field advantage. The Phoenix hung in low Earth orbit, its stealth systems straining to mask the energy signatures of the awakened colonists aboard. Below, the planet's surface glittered with Nexari crystal cities, their geometric patterns now visibly marred by centuries of resistance activity. Sarah Chen watched the final preparations from her command chair, knowing that everything hinged on the next few hours. Status report, she ordered, her voice carrying across the bridge. First wave of volunteers has successfully undergone initial synthesis integration, Dr. Tanaka reported from the medical bay. Elena's modifications to the process, combined with our colonists' genetic diversity, are showing promising results. The transformation is proceeding faster and more stably than they've seen in generations. Lieutenant Rodriguez interrupted from his sensor station. Captain, detecting increased Nexari activity worldwide. Their mining operations are accelerating. Multiple deep-bore sites have gone active simultaneously. The main viewscreen showed the energy readings from Earth's core growing increasingly unstable. The Nexari, perhaps sensing that something was amiss, had abandoned their usual careful mining approach in favor of aggressive extraction. They were literally tearing the heart out of the planet. They know, Elena's voice came through the comm, her tone grim. They've finally realized what we've been doing to their network. They're trying to complete their extraction before we can stop them. Sarah opened a channel to all resistance cells worldwide. This is Captain Chen. The Nexari have forced our hand. Initiate Operation Awakening. All cells, execute on my mark. Across the planet, centuries of preparation began to unfold. In hidden bunkers and underground cities, thousands of synthesis humans interfaced with carefully corrupted Nexary crystals. Each connection sent cascading disruptions through the aliens' network, turning their own technology against them. Nexary defense grid is responding, Marcus reported as alien weapons platforms began powering up throughout the system. Multiple capital ships emerging from hyperspace. They're calling in reinforcements. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Right on schedule. Commander Walsh, signal the fleet. From their hiding places throughout the solar system, dozens of human warships dropped their stealth fields. The Colonial Defense Fleet, secretly assembled over the past month, had been waiting for this moment. But they weren't there to engage the Nexary directly, they were there to protect something far more important. All ships in position, Walsh confirmed. Creating a defensive sphere around Earth's magnetosphere. In Haven Prime's command center, Red Cloud and Elena initiated the next phase. The hybrid technology they'd spent centuries developing came online, tapping into Earth's natural energy grid. The planet's ley lines began to pulse with visible power, creating a web of light that could be seen from orbit. Neural interface active, Elena reported, her crystalline eyes glowing as she connected with the planetary network. Beginning primary sequence. Captain, we're going to lose communications when the harmonic pulse hits. You'll need to time your attack precisely. Sarah nodded, though Elena couldn't see it. Understood. All ships, prepare for electromagnetic blackout. Switch to backup systems on my mark. The Nexary fleet arrived in force, their crystalline ships filling near-Earth space. Their initial attacks struck the human fleet's shields, but their usual overwhelming technological advantage seemed muted. Centuries of studying their weaknesses had taught humanity exactly how to fight them. Energy spike detected from Earth's core, Rodriguez reported, his voice tense. Whatever they're planning down there, it's happening now. Sarah opened a channel to all ships. This is what we've trained for. Hold the line. Protect the planet at all costs. Humanity is taking back our home. The first pulse from Earth's core hit like a physical wave. Every crystal structure on and around the planet resonated at once, creating a cascade of energy that overwhelmed sensors. The Nexary ships, so dependent on their crystal technology, began to shudder as their systems went haywire. It's working, Tanaka breathed, watching the readings. The pulse is affecting their molecular structure directly. Their ships are literally starting to break down. But the Nexary weren't finished. Their largest vessels began charging weapons that didn't rely on crystal tech, planet killers, designed to sterilize worlds that couldn't be controlled. They had destroyed Earth once before, or so they thought. They were prepared to do it again. Multiple doomsday weapons detected, Walsh reported. They're targeting Earth's core directly. Sarah's hands tightened on her command chair. This was the moment everything hinged on. All ships, execute pattern Phoenix. Draw their fire. Keep those weapons away from Earth at all costs. The space battle that followed would be remembered for generations. Human ships, though outnumbered, used every trick and strategy learned from centuries of preparation. They didn't need to win, they just needed to buy time. Below, Earth itself began to change. The ley line network, fully activated for the first time in human history, pulsed with increasing power. The planet's magnetic field, far from being weakened by the Nexary mining, suddenly strengthened. And deep within the core, something ancient stirred. Final sequence initiated, Elena's voice crackled through the static. Captain, it's been an honor. See you on the other side. The second pulse from Earth's core dwarfed the first. Every piece of Nexary crystal technology on or near the planet began to vibrate at its resonant frequency. Their ships, their weapons, their cities, all of it connected to a network they thought they controlled, but which had been slowly corrupted over centuries by humanity's patient resistance. Energy readings off the scale, Rodriguez reported as his instruments overloaded. The entire Nexary fleet, their molecular structure is breaking down. Sarah watched as the seemingly invincible alien armada began to disintegrate. The crystalline ships literally fell apart, their perfectly geometric forms dissolving into clouds of component particles. On Earth's surface, their cities followed suit, centuries of hidden corruption finally reaching critical mass. But something else was happening too. The evolved humans, the synthesis, were connecting to the planetary network in a way never before possible. Through them, Earth itself was waking up, and it remembered who its children were. All ships, brace for impact, Sarah ordered as a final pulse built up in Earth's core. This is it. This is what we came home for. The pulse that followed would change the course of human history forever. As it washed over the planet and out into space, it carried with it a simple message, encoded in the very frequency that had made Earth so valuable to the Nexary: this world is protected. When the light faded and sensors came back online, Earth had changed forever. The final pulse had swept away every trace of pure Nexary crystal technology, but in its place, something new had emerged. The hybrid structures created by the synthesis remained, now pulsing in harmony with the planet's own rhythms. Earth glowed with a subtle luminescence visible from orbit, its ley lines now permanently activated. Sarah Chen stood on the surface for the first time since the battle, watching the sunrise over what had once been the Nexary's primary mining complex in Australia's outback. The crystalline towers had been replaced by organic geometric structures that seemed to grow from the Earth itself, their surfaces shifting colors with the dawn light. Beautiful, isn't it? Elena approached, her crystalline eyes reflecting the changing colors. The transformation that had begun in her ancestors had completed during the final pulse. All of the synthesis now bore the marks of perfect integration between human and crystal, their forms a living bridge between Earth's past and future. How many survived? Sarah asked, though she already knew the cost had been high. 85% of the resistance forces, Elena replied. Nearly all of your colonial fleet. But more importantly, the planet itself is stabilizing. The Nexary never understood what they were really mining. They thought Earth's core was just a power source. They didn't realize it was conscious. Dr. Tanaka approached, carrying her latest readings. The integration of the volunteer colonists is proceeding perfectly. Their genetic diversity has completely stabilized the synthesis process. Future generations will be able to choose the degree of their transformation, or remain fully human if they prefer. Above them, the Phoenix led the colonial fleet in a victory formation, their hulls gleaming in the morning light. Already, ships were departing to carry the news back to the colonies. Humanity hadn't just reclaimed Earth, they had evolved into something new, something that could ensure it would never be lost again. Show her, Red Cloud said to Elena, appearing suddenly beside them. His tribal markings now pulsed in sync with the earth beneath their feet. Elena nodded and placed her hand on a nearby crystal formation. The structure resonated, and suddenly Sarah could see what they saw, the living network that now spanned the globe. Earth's consciousness, dormant for millennia, had fully awakened. Through the synthesis, it could now communicate directly with its human children. This is what the Nexary could never understand, Elena explained. Earth wasn't just a resource to be mined. It was a partner waiting for its children to evolve enough to hear its voice. Everything, the invasion, our exile, the development of the synthesis, it was all part of a greater evolution. Sarah watched as more ships descended from orbit, carrying the first wave of returning colonists. Among them were her own crew's families, coming to see their transformed loved ones and the new Earth they would all share. The planet had room for both traditional humans and the synthesis, each contributing to a future neither could have achieved alone. The Nexary will return, Sarah said, her tactical mind already considering the future. They'll want to understand how we did this, try to replicate it. Red Cloud laughed, a sound full of genuine amusement. Let them come. What they'll find is a living world with two forms of humanity as its immune system. Earth isn't just defended now, it's awake. And it remembers. In orbit, the remains of the Nexary fleet drifted lifelessly, their perfect crystalline forms reduced to space debris. But among the ruins, small seeds of hybrid crystal technology were already growing, guided by the synthesis. Humanity would not repeat the Nexary's mistake of rejecting other forms of life. Instead, they would rebuild using everything they had learned, creating technology that worked with nature rather than against it. What now? Sarah asked, watching a group of children, some human, some synthesis, playing in a field where deadly crystal spires had stood just days before. Already, new life was sprouting from soil that had been sterile for centuries. Elena smiled, her expression both ancient and new. Now we rebuild. We learn. We grow. The colonies will remain as humanity's insurance policy, but Earth is alive again. And this time, we're ready to be its true children, not just its inhabitants. A soft rumble passed through the ground, not a threat, but a greeting. Through the synthesis, Earth was learning to communicate with all its children, sharing 3 billion years of accumulated wisdom. The planet that had given birth to humanity had evolved alongside them, and now it was ready to help them take their next steps into the future. As the sun climbed higher, Sarah looked out over the transformed landscape. Humanity had not just survived, they had transcended. The refugees had become pioneers, the victims had become victors, and the exile had become an evolution. Earth was more than reclaimed, it was reborn. Welcome home, Elena said softly, speaking both for herself and for the living planet beneath their feet. The real journey is just beginning. In the sky above, the first ships from the outer colonies appeared, carrying more volunteers eager to help rebuild. Earth's children were coming home, not to the world they had left, but to something greater, a world where humanity and nature, technology and life, had finally learned to grow together. The morning wind carried the sound of children's laughter, mixing with the harmonic hum of hybrid crystals and the deep, satisfied pulse of a planet finally whole. Humanity's long exile was over. The real adventure was just beginning.